In January 2000, Jennifer Simpson is describing to investigators in Palestine, Texas, how she, her husband, Danielle, and a 13-year-old boy broke into the home of frail Jerry Davidson and abducted her. With only flimsy packing tape over her mouth, she desperately tries to raise the alarm.
So he started screaming at me, saying, why didn't I put the tape on her mouth or whatever. So he was arguing with me and stuff. They ended up putting her in the trunk. That's when I knew it was serious.
They go buy some marijuana, they smoke what's called a blunt, which is marijuana that's laced in formaldehyde, and it accelerates the high, makes people act crazy.
Jerry Davidson is doing all she can to get free from the trunk, while her abductors bring her to a relative's home.
Yeah, man, that's some crazy stuff today, yo.
Danielle Simpson is seeking advice on where he might sell the stolen car.
You have a lady in your car?
It's not my car, it's hers. Hey, she wants to see her.
And she was telling him about some chop shop stuff that they had going on.
Simpson brags about what he's done and is proud to show off his terrified prisoner.
Danielle opened the trunk of the car.
Please, please, you can have my car.
I can hear her talking, and she was telling him that he can have her money, he can have her car, all she wanted was her medicine or whatever.
I'll just walk home.
Shut up, man. Do you even know where you are?
She was desperate. She knew she needed her medicine, and she was begging for it.
Astonishingly, his aunt doesn't report what she's seen to the police, and his wife remains content to let Jerry's suffering continue.
So I just wanted it to just go away, but I didn't say nothing. Didn't say anything.
The 13-year-old accomplice is now high on the drugs they've all been smoking and ambivalent to what's going on around him. They pick up Simpson's 15-year-old brother, Lionel.
Yo, come on, let's roll. Let's go, let's go.
You do it?
Yeah, I did it. She's in the trunk.
He, too, is well known to local juvenile authorities for his violent reputation, including once being accused of attempting to murder his own father.
He ended up hitting his dad in the head with a bat.
He's heard about their hostage and wants to show his older brother he's a tough guy, too.
A lot of times they was in competition, like who was the baddest, or who could do this first, or who would beat who the baddest, or something like that.
Jerry's abductors drive around Palestine, stopping again and again to display Jerry Davidson as a sick trophy.
Just let me out of here, please. Talk to him.
They would open the trunk and show Mrs. Davidson off to these other individuals. None of them called in, none of them reported it.
Try to understand why they would show her and allow her to be taunted and mistreated. Talks about kind of a culture of anger almost that existed. These youths were involved in a kind of a street gang culture, and the folks that they were stopping and showing Miss Davidson to were part of that same culture. I think it was kind of a status matter. Being willing and able to do something this hard and cold raised them in the eyes of their peers to some extent.
Please let me go, please. Somebody help me.
What kind of place do we live in? What kind of people do we have in a community that they're so callous that they won't help somebody? While they are showing her off to their friends, Lionel takes his fist and hits her, and may have even taken the shovel and hit her.
Based on fingerprints found on the back of her car, prosecutors believe as many as 10 people viewed Jerry.
That tells us that people were touching and leaning on the edge of the vehicle or the trunk, looking in at Mrs. Davidson.
The gang then drives to a fast food restaurant, which is caught on surveillance tape.
They sent me in there.
Jennifer Simpson waits patiently in line, standing right next to an elderly woman, and about to spend some of the money they've stolen from Mrs. Davidson. She has plenty of opportunity to raise the alarm, but is only interested in getting food. Simpson spends a full 20 minutes inside, while their hostage languishes in the trunk just yards away in the parking lot. Tired of waiting, her brother-in-law, Lionel Simpson, goes in to get her.
Lionel was saying that she was making noise in the trunk, so it was time for us to go.
45 minutes. Man.
All right. You got bacon cheeseburger.
Bacon?
Man, give me that. Pork, man. You want my sandwich, man. Give me my sandwich, man.
Please let me go.
We need to get rid of her.
Knowing they can't just let Jerry go, the group starts discussing what to do next.
Lionel was talking about throwing her in a river and taping her up.
They stop at a store to buy duct tape before the heartless gang goes in search of somewhere quiet to inflict yet more suffering.
So we drive to a dead-end street, and Lionel and Danielle gets out first.
Lionel Simpson enjoys brutalizing their frail hostage.
And he's rough handling her, like kind of throwing her around. And Danielle's telling him to stop, but Lionel's not trying to hear what's going on, so Lionel starts putting duct tape around her mouth.
Be quiet, be quiet.
So he turns her over and he puts her hands behind her back and he starts duct taping her arms together. She was laying on the ground. She was on the ground. And Lionel picks her up again. And they put in a trunk.
The gang goes in search of a concrete block.
So Danielle drives around to this old house they used to stay in. Lionel gets out. And I hear a sound like he hits her.
Shut up!
So when he gets in the car, Danielle asked him, "Did you hit her?" And he was like, "Yeah, I hit her."
Let's go, man. Come on, let's go. Come on, man. Tripping, man. Let's just go.
And I remember I was just thinking I just wanted it to be over with.
Heading northeast, they arrive at a dirt road leading to the banks of the Natchez River.
You can only imagine that she's scared. I'm sure she's praying to the Lord to say, "Please save me, please save me."
Jerry's ordeal reaches its 7th hour.
I'm turned around looking at the back of from the back of the vehicle, and I see Danielle and Lionel doing something. Only thing I saw was Lionel and Danielle arms. I couldn't believe that they did that. At that point, I don't even think I still even thought it would be a murder. I don't know what I thought they was gonna do to her. But once it actually happened, I just... And then the next thing you know, they all jumped in the car. And Danielle pulled off and left.
The gang heads back to Palestine, dropping Jennifer Simpson and the 13-year-old boy off at their homes, where she goes to bed without raising the alarm. She falls asleep, but not for long, as her husband comes knocking, worried the police are on to him.
He was like, man, I don't know what to do, and he ended up climbing in the bed with me. And we laid there for a minute. It didn't seem like even 30 minutes. The next thing you know, we heard, police is outside, the police is outside. So Danielle jumps up, and when he moves, the police is shining a light in the window. So Danielle ends up getting up, and he runs out the window. And they don't catch him. I go outside, and I'm looking around at what's going on. There's a whole bunch of cops outside.
As the sun rises, police get word from a passing motorist that there might be a body in the shallows of the Natchez River.
I see fresh tire tracks over here, and then right there in the water, we can see the red thing the caller called in about. She's got duct tape around her mouth and face. Her hands are pulled behind her back and bound, and her feet are bound together with some type of rope that's tied to a cinder block that's weighing her down.
An officer at the scene recognizes Jerry as the woman who taught him in 5th grade.
This was a person that posed no harm, no threat, and no danger to anyone. This was such a violent and unnecessary death that it did have an impact on me.
Her body is sent to the medical examiner in Dallas. The coroner confirms Jennifer Simpson's account of the savagery that had been inflicted on the frail grandmother. She had numerous injuries to her face, head, and torso. When the end finally came, it had been terrifying.
The autopsy indicates that she was alive at the time she was placed in the water.
She was thrown in the river and knew that she was going to die in this cold, lonely place.
Jerry Davidson had been bound with duct tape, tied to a heavy concrete block, and tossed into the freezing river, where she slowly drowned. The cruelty of what she endured traumatizes her family.
There's a lot of clinging and crying and wondering, what do we do next, and how do we deal with this loss?
The small, tight-knit community of Palestine is equally horrified as details emerge of the torment and pain inflicted. There's also fear Danielle and Lionel Simpson and the 13-year-old boy are still on the loose. A fresh lead comes in.
Well, we got information Danielle Simpson is in a dope house over on South Jackson. We're gonna meet up with a couple of the guys from the police department, set up a little plan, make a run on it.
Danielle's 15-year-old brother, Lionel, may also be hiding out at the fortified drug den. Danielle Simpson, once more, tries to escape.
Freeze!
Don't move. I confronted him with my .45. He was taken into custody then.
Lionel Simpson is also cuffed and taken away. The 13-year-old boy involved is apprehended at his home and brought to the city's juvenile lockup. Danielle Simpson refuses to cooperate with investigators. He asks for an attorney and won't say anything else.
Danielle's attitude was defiant and non-cooperative. He didn't give us any assistance or any information that would further the investigation.
His only brief admission